Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist. Today I'm going to be doing a Dinomist deck profile. So Dinomist is a really fun pendulum deck that's actually really budget for players who just are getting into the game. It's super fun to be able to play around with, and it's a lot of fun to be able to pendulum summon out these dinosaurs that are dinosaur machine monsters that have all sorts of effects and be able to go into stuff like Cyber Dragon Infinity. And it's actually a really fun deck to carry to a locals or even at a lower level regionals or ARG and be able to top with. It's a fun deck to be able to play around with, and I look forward to you guys being able to try it out. So before we get into this, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and let's get straight on into this. So this deck is super fun. I'm so excited to show you guys this. So for the main deck, we're going to be able to play 3 copies of Dinomist Rex. Dinomist Rex is a super good card in the deck. Basically, once per turn, when this card is in the Pendulum Zone, you can negate the effects of effects that target another Dinomist monster you control and destroy them. And then if this card attacks during the end of the damage step, you contribute a Dinomist monster to activate one of these effects. This card can make a second attack during each on an opponent's monster, and if it attacks a defense position monster, inflicts piercing damage, or shuffle a card from your opponent's hand at random on their side of the field into the deck, and then this card gains 100 attack, which is pretty good to be able to do that and be able to just increase its attack and stuff like that. Then I play 3 copies of this copy of Dinomist. Basically, once per turn. While this card's in your Pendulum Zone, you can negate the effect of an effect that targets another Dinomist. And if you do not control a Dinomist, this copy of Dinomist, in your monster zone, and your opponent controls a monster with the highest attack on the field, you can special summon this card directly from your hand. So it's kind of like Cyber Dragon in a way, to be able to just instantly special summon itself from your hand, which is really beneficial to you, to be able to grab it directly from your hand and just summon it directly onto the field, which can just super benefit you because you're trying to get your Dinomist onto the field as quickly as possible to be able to go into plays like for your copies of, your Cyber Dragon Infinity and your copies of Cyber Dragon Nova and stuff like that. And this card's really good. Then I play 3 copies of Ceratops. Ceratops is good as well because if another Dinomist card you control would be destroyed by battle or by a card effect, you can destroy it instead. And then if all monsters you control are Dinomist and you control no other monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand as well. So it's like another Cyber Dragon card, which is really good, especially since the majority of the stuff that we play in our main deck is Dinomist. Then I only play 2 copies of Spinno. Spinno is basically if another Dinomist monster you control will be destroyed by a card effect, you can destroy it instead. And then you contribute 1 Dinomist monster and activate one of these effects. This card can attack your opponent directly, or this card can make a second attack during each battle phase. It's a good 2 of. I probably wouldn't play it at 3, but it's a really good 2 of in the main deck. So that's it for the level 5s. So for the level 4s, we do play 3 level 4, or 2 of the 3 level 4s. And that's 3 copies of the Searcher of the deck. Basically, with this card's normal summon, or when this card destroys an opponent's monster of a battle, you can add a Dinomist card from your deck to your hand, which is really good to be able to just add those Dinomists directly from your deck to your hand, which is super good. And then if it has the ability that it shares all the level 3 or the level 3 or scale 3 Dinomists have the ability that if another Dinomist monster you control will be destroyed by a battle or by an opponent's card effect, you can destroy this card instead. And all the 6s have the ability that if they're targeted, you can negate the activation if you if your opponent targets a Dinomist you control, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it, which is pretty cool, or destroy this card. Then we play 3 copies of Pelios. All Dinomist monsters you control, or all monsters your opponent control, lose 100 attack and defense for each Dinomist you control, which is kind of big because some of them get pretty big. And so you want to have this on your side of the field so you can do certain effects. Then I play 3 copies of Passing Glider, Speedward Passing Glider. Basically, this is a good level 3. It's a good scale 3, and it can special summon itself from your hand if you control no other monsters, and then you can special summon Speedward Passing Glider once per turn this way, which is really good. You can, if you're not that worried about the scales, you can change this out for Cyber Dragon, so you can go into Mega Fleet and use the effect of Nova a little bit better, but that is an option if you want to go that route. But I wanted the extra scale 3 so I could Pendulum Summon a little easier. Then I play one copy of Rescue Hamster. Rescue Hamster is a little bit weird in the deck because if you have two monsters in your extra monster or extra deck that have the same name that are level 5, I think it's level 5. No, two face-up monsters in your Pendulum Zone or in your Pendulum extra deck that are Pendulum monsters, you can banish this card and then add them back to your hand, which is pretty good. I usually don't use the monster effect that much. I usually just use that effect to add them back to my hand because of the way that extra monster zones are now. But its other effect is if this card is normal summon, you can have a face-up level 5 or lower Pendulum monster you control in your extra deck. You can tribute this card to choose one level 5 or lower Pendulum monster in your extra deck and special summon two monsters from your deck with the same name as that monster, but have their effects negated and destroy them during the end phase. It's really easy to go into Cyber Dragon Nova and then Infinity with that. If you have something like Rex in your extra deck, I don't use that as much, but it is a good option. So for the hand traps, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Effect Veiler and then 3 copies of Ash Blossom. I do change the Effect Veilers in and out for Nibiru's when I do need the Nibiru's because it is just that. It is just an option so you guys can summon, Nibiru if your opponent's swarming you. But I do side the Nibiru's out or side them in for the Effect Veiler. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion is extremely important for this deck because you want to be able to bait your opponent out with Thousand Eyes Restrict, Thousand Eyes, Millennium Eyes Restrict, and summon Panzer Dragon so you can go into Nova and Infinity to be able to just negate stuff on your opponent's side of the field. 3 copies of Call by the Grave because you don't want to deal with your opponent's hand traps at all. And this is a really good card to be able to stop your opponent's hand traps. I play 2 limiter removals. I don't feel like you need 3 limiter removals. The 2 is just fine to double your Dinomist attack to OTK your opponent. And then I play 3 copies of Dinomist Charge. Dinomist Charge is really, really good. When this card is activated, you get to add a Dinomist monster from your deck to your hand. And then once per turn, if a Dinomist card is added from your from the field to the extra deck, face up, add one of those cards to your hand. So it's really good to be able to do that, to be able to add them back to your hand instead of sending them to the extra deck because of extra monster zones. Because then you can just Pendulum summon them all back as well. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. I cannot emphasize how important this card is. This card is so good to just be able to add them back to your hand instead of sending them to the extra deck. So it's really good. So for the last 3 cards, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Dinomist Howling. So Dinomist Howling is really ridiculous. When this card is activated, you can place 1 or 2 Dinomist Pendulum monsters from your deck in your Pendulum Zone, but you cannot Pendulum summon monsters until the end phase of the next turn, except Dinomist monsters, which all we play is Dinomist anyways, except for Passing Glider, which special summons itself. And then it also has the effect of once per turn, if this card is already face up in your spell and trap card zone, you can tribute a Dinomist monster to target a card your opponent controls and return to the hand, which is super, super good to be able to send stuff back to your opponent's hand, like stuff that they special summon, like Boral Sword or something like that. Like they have to deal with this first before they summon all of their monsters. And once you get that first effect off of putting the Dinomist in your extra monster zone, you're not that concerned, or your Pendulum Zones, you're not that concerned about what they're going to do anyways with this card because you've already resolved that and it baits your opponent out. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Cyber Dragon Infinity because it is so easy to summon out. 2 copies of Cyber Dragon Nova because you have to summon Nova in order to go into Infinity so you can have those negates on board. Speaking of negates on board, we play 1 Bahamut Shark and 1 copy of Totally Awesome because it's really, 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 really easy to get this on the field and be able to summon the Bahamut Shark and then special summon Totally Awesome out as long as you have the link zones to do so. 1 copy of Panzer Dragon for the Instant Fusion, and then 1 Millennium Eyes Restrict and Thousand Eyes Restrict, so you can summon them off of your Instant Fusions. You don't have to play both. I play both because it's very situational which one you need. If you're trying to bait out of your opponent, you do Thousand Eyes Restrict. If you're trying to go in, I go into Millennium Eyes Restrict because Millennium Eyes Restrict can negate hand traps. 1 copy of Boral Sword because Boral Sword is big for no reason and it just does all sorts of stuff. Unicorn because it bounces stuff. Soldier of Chaos because Soldier of Chaos can be summoned extremely easy in this deck. you don't have to play this. You could drop it for something else if it's a little bit expensive. Like if you wanted to play something else in the deck, like some other Nightmare or an extra Mistar Boy or something like that. But I play it because it has the ability that it can get really big and banish stuff and make a second attack. One copy of Electromite because it's played in every Pendulum deck ever. Mistar Boy and Linkuriboh. Mistar Boy is really good in the deck because it boosts all your Dinomists up by 500, which they can get really big. But if you don't want to play the Soldier of Chaos, you can play another copy of Mistar Boy instead. So you can actually have, extra boosts to your attack. So that is another option for you guys if you don't want to play the Soldier of Chaos. Do something like this where you don't have to play that and it cuts down on the cost of the deck. But if you want to play the Soldier of Chaos, it's there if you want to. So anyways, guys, that's it for the deck. I really hope you enjoyed this deck. It's super, super fun to be able to play around with. It's really budget, to be honest with you, for the main deck. Like, nothing in the main deck is really expensive. All the Dinomists are like $0.25 a piece. The most expensive stuff is like instant fusions and your staple stuff, which you should already have anyways. So, I mean, you could probably get the deck for less than $20 for the core. For the core. Not the extra deck, not the staples, but the core of the deck. So, anyways, guys, this is Dark Armed Duelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. Like I said, it's super, super fun to be able to play around with it. I mean, how often do you get to play with Infinity and Totally Awesome in the same deck? I mean, that is Totally Awesome to the infinity and beyond. I know I just did that. That was corny as hell. But anyways, guys, this is Dark Armed Duelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.